For your viewing pleasure, this broadcast of the Municipal Council meeting of Alpena is made possible by the funding provided by the City of Alpena. Thank you for your generosity.
Good evening and welcome to the Alpena City Council meeting of January 7th, 2019. Call the order, please.
Hess. Here. Johnson. Nielsen.
Here.
Noah.
Here.
Walber.
Here. Please rise to the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any modifications to the agenda this evening? Approval of the minutes, open and closed sessions of December 17th, 2018. Any changes, issues? Citizens appearing before council on agenda and non-agenda items are allowed 5 minutes each to address your concerns. This is the only time at this evening's meeting you're allowed to address council. If you'd like to do so, please come to the podium and state your name and address for our records.
You have to go to the podium.
Yes, that is you. All right. Consent agenda. A is bills to be allowed in the amount of $391,494. And B is the collection of 2019 property taxes for Alpena Public Schools.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Hess.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Here. Yes.
Noah.
Yes.
And Walber.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Presentations. Tonight we have a certificate of appreciation for Mark Nowakowski of Suez for 42 years of service to the City of Alpena and contracted utility services at Suez. So I have the certificate. The weather must have kept Mark from joining us this evening, but it is grateful recognition for outstanding public service. And I'll give it to Rich if you want to take that to him, please. Okay, no announcements or proclamations, hearings. We are down to report of officers.
Mayor, we do have an announcement.
Oh, the announcement. I'm sorry. There was a quick announcement that Anna would like to make, please.
Our next regularly scheduled municipal council meeting is going to be on Tuesday, the 22nd, in recognition of Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Just a quick reminder to everyone. Thank you. Now down to report of officers. Litigation mediation update by our city attorney, Bill Piper.
Thank you, Mayor. The Michigan Court of Appeals recently ordered the City of Alpena and the Township of Alpena into its mediation program that is used on certain cases that are filed with the Court of Appeals. To that extent, the parties were given an opportunity to mutually agree upon a mediator, and if unable to do so, the Court of Appeals would choose a mediator. The city and the township did agree to employ attorney David Meyer of Saginaw, Michigan, for purposes of mediating the ongoing dispute and the filings in the Court of Appeals on behalf of both parties. Mediation sessions have been scheduled for later this month. As mediation pursuant to the court rules is a confidential process, the city cannot comment any further about the mediation, other than to say that it looks forward to the opportunity to attempt to resolve not only the ongoing issues being litigated, but to developing a long-term agreement with the township as to future water and sewer rates. The city also takes at face value Township Supervisor Nathan Skibby's comments that recently appeared in the Alpena News regarding all issues being on the table at the mediation. The city is also aware that the Township of Alpena held a water sewer litigation public information session on December 19th of 2018. And although the city has consistently maintained that it will not negotiate in public, the city feels the need to at least briefly respond to some of the claims and issues raised at that meeting. The Township of Alpena is still paying the City of Alpena $6.39 total per 1,000 gallons of water and sewer service. This is the same rate for water, $2.91 per thousand gallons, and sewer, $3.48 per thousand gallons that the township has been paying to the city since 2010. Although the city of Alpena proposed a rate increase consistent with what it charges its in-city customers, currently it's $12.15 total per thousand gallons, which breaks down to $6.04 per thousand gallons of water and $6.11 per thousand gallons of sewer. The township of Alpena has obviously not been agreeable to saying. The township of Alpena, at its public information session, provided that the total minimum bill for a township customer based on a 7,000 gallon quarterly usage under its current rate structure of $9.59 for water and $10.04 for sewer, indicated that a customer in the township would pay $147.41 quarterly, which is a considerable increase over what the average city customer pays for 7,000 gallons on a quarterly basis, which is $115.05, including the city's $30 per quarter ready-to-serve charge. The 2018-19 rates proposed by the city of $12.15 per thousand gallons total would represent an approximate 90% increase over the $6.39 that the township, or that has been paid, by Alpena Township for the past 9 years. During this same time frame, in-city residents have seen a 72% increase from $7.07 per thousand gallons in 2010-11 to $12.15 per thousand gallons in 2018 and 19. The parties did attempt to reach a settlement at trial. The trial was adjourned by the court with a settlement decision by the court for the period from May 2014 through June of 18 in hopes that a long-term agreement could be reached by the parties. Unfortunately, that has not occurred, although the city believes that the mediation that will take place later this month may be fruitful in that regard. The township's previous claim that the city walked out of the first mediation session in April of 2017 is inaccurate. The mediation process is a confidential process and not a process to be mediated in the public. It was very apparent to the city that the township did not take that confidentiality issue seriously, having issued a press release that same night in an apparent attempt to gain public support. The city felt that mediation at that point would no longer be successful and therefore chose not to continue mediation with Utility Financial Solutions. The township raised this issue with the court, and the court ruled that mediation was voluntary, and as such, neither party was required to continue mediation at that time. The issue regarding the costs of experts and attorney fees also arose at the township's public input session. To date, the city has expended the following sums. From its water budget, $341,781.94, and from its sewer budget. From its water budget, $352,742.58. Those totals do include $110,000 in additional payments that were made to myself by City Council. The total litigation expenses paid to date since 2013 by the city are $694,524.52. And once again, the city looks forward to mediating the issues that exist in dispute between the parties and is hopeful that mediation will be successful.
Thank you, Bill. Receive file,
I would,
please.
so,
I move we receive and file.
Second.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Noah,
Yes.
Walagora,
Aye.
and Hess.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next up, Communications and Petitions, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR. Fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018, presented by Straley, Lamp, and Kraenzlein, PC.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name's Phil Straley, and with me is Mark Sandula, and also with us is Chelsea Meter from our firm. And we're going to cover the comprehensive annual financial report for the year ended June 30, 2018. You should have copies of that. Also, there is a audit communications letter. It's titled Communication with Those Charged with Governance. That would be you, the board. And then also there's the little yellow sheet that we handed out this evening, which is our agenda. What I'd like to do, first of all, just on that agenda sheet, we just point out the staff members that have participated in this audit. It is a big undertaking, and we do use quite a few people and use their specialties in our office to accomplish what we need to, and also to get in and try to get on his hair as quick as we can. She's got lots of work to do besides answer our questions. Services provided, again, is the comprehensive annual financial report, this audit communications letter, which is required for us to communicate with you as a board. Also, you may have a special audit of federal funds. This year you did not. The threshold is you have to have $750,000 of federal money. A couple years ago you did, but this year you did not. And also we're available for any consulting or any special projects that come up during the year. I was just kind of noting that there's a lot of different agencies you as a board have to deal with, and Anna and all of you, you have to deal with Michigan Department of Treasury, obviously. You have to deal with IRS, DOL regulations, Governmental Accounting Standard Board regulations to form and cover this financial statement. You issue bonds, you file bond update disclosures with the SEC, so there's all sorts of federal agency and rules and guidelines that come into play here. We're going to cover a few of those, and maybe before Mark would get into that bound audit report and go over some of the statements, if we could just take a look at this letter, this communications letter. And on the first page, what I'd just like to point out is under our responsibilities. Our responsibility is to provide opinions on your financial statements, which we have provided, and to ensure that your financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects according to governmental accounting standards. On page 2, what I'd like to point out there is at the very top, we identify number 75, which is a Governmental Accounting Standard Board policy, and that was a newly adopted standard that you had to adopt this year. I'm going to come back to that and just explain a little bit more in detail what that involves. Down towards the middle of that page, we talk about various estimates in your financial statements. Just like actuaries have to use estimates for assumptions of how long a person's going to live, what healthcare costs are going to be, we have to use certain estimates in your financial statements, such as depreciation expense, which is how quickly or how long your assets are going to either wear or last. We have to make allowances, or you have to make allowances for doubtful accounts. Again, it's an estimate of whether your ambulance bills, whether you can collect all those. So again, you have to make estimates. And probably some of the bigger estimates have to do with your pension liabilities and, again, your OPEB or other post-employment benefits, the insurance costs for your retirees. Again, these are built upon assumptions that deal with future employee wages, discount rates, again, life expectancies. But again, there are standards that are used in the industry to come up with those estimates. Down towards the bottom of that page, if we encounter any difficulties, we would have to disclose those. And again, we're pleased, as in prior years, that we really didn't encounter any difficulties. Other than the difficulties everybody's encountering these days, trying to deal with all the standards that continue to compile. On the next page, on page 3 up towards the top, the disagreements with management. There were no disagreements with management that we had. On page 4, we get into some of the upcoming standards that will be taking place. I won't really get into those, but I would like to go back again to page 2, where we talk about GASB number 75. GASB number 75, and again, a GASB is a governmental accounting standard board policy. And these are policies that apply across the board to all governmental units throughout the United States. So they're standard policies that are adopted. This one, GASB 75, deals with, again, other post-employment benefits. We use the word OPEB for short, but really what it is, it's the health care cost that you have promised to your employees and to the retirees. And there's a cost to that. And now, for the first time, GASB 75 had to be implemented this year. And along with, back in, I think it was 2014, that you had to implement GASB 68, which dealt with pension and the liabilities that now have to go into your financial statement. Prior to that, they were footnotes in your financial statements, but they never appeared on the balance sheet or in the income statement, and now they're appearing there. Just to give you a little bit of an idea, for the pension, the liability at June 30th was just a little over $7 million. That was the liability. You have significant assets in your pension plan, but also you have liabilities that exceed that. Good news is that your net liability actually went down about $850,000 during the year. And you contributed a little over $1 million towards those pension obligations. Now, the second part of this, we were just talking about GASB 68 pension, and now again this year we have GASB 75 that deals with a little smaller portion, but it's still a little pretty significant amount. It deals with the health care costs, and that liability is about $4.5 million, the net liability. Your pension is about 80% funded, where the health care costs are right around 20% funded. The pension, probably the 80% is probably a little bit better than we tend to see in municipalities right now. Compare yourself to school districts, they're about maybe 60-65% funded. So that kind of gives you a benchmark. For the OPEB, or for the health insurance, you contributed a little over $91,000 this year towards that. This one, actually, the liability went up this year, so you lost a little bit of ground to the health care by about $183,000. So we just wanted to address those two issues, the big numbers. Nothing I would be overly concerned with at this point. Again, as we pointed out in the pension sector, we made some pretty good progress working on that liability. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and he'll get into the bound audit report and cover some of that.
Once again, it's fairly voluminous, so basically to pat the city on its Certificate of Achievement program, this is the 25th year, the 2018 year that you participated in the Governmental Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement, and you've received the award for the last 24 years, and there's nothing in this report that I expect that is going to deny you a CAFR certificate for 2018. So this is the silver anniversary of the city of Alpena meeting the standards of the Government Finance Officers Association to get an award for the presentation of your law. So to do that, you have to prepare a comprehensive annual financial report, or CAFR, and all the people want to use acronyms. Well, the acronyms for that is CAFR. And basically, there's 3 basic sections of a CAFR. The introductory section is page 1 through 26. And the financial section, which was everybody else in government services, has that on page 27 through 170. And then you have a statistical section on page 171, 200. So if you're ever on Jeopardy with the City of Alpena column, that you'll know what the answers are, because there's 10 years of statistics that Anna and her staff have to put together. Very meaningful to the Government Finance Officers Association, but it's kind of tribute to the accountant. But anyway, the transmittal letter and the economic conditions and outlook and vision statement are all part of that introductory section. That's unique to a CAFR. The other units in the county of Alpena and the state of Michigan that aren't doing the CAFR don't have this, so that's a lot of extra information that's provided to the readers of your financial statement. And then, like I said, the statistical section is also extra, that there's plenty of statistical information for the last 10 years that you can be on Jeopardy. So I'd like you to turn to the table of contents, and I want to diss the council, but I'm going to take the cover page and start on the second page of the table of contents. Basically, this is a 200-page report, so you obviously can't go through it if I'm on the 8-timer. So I just want to explain again what's in this. The financial section is considered the main body of the report. So you have our audit report in there, and the management discussion and analysis that Anna and Greg and Adam put together, and then the basic financial statements, the 2 sets. There's the government-wide financial statements, which is everything to do with the city of Alpena, which is your regular fund statements plus fixed assets, subtracting long-term debt, the retirement liabilities, and the OPEB liabilities. So those 4 functions aren't recorded anywhere else other than the government-wide. So if you went and looked at your financial statements from Anna for June of 18, those 4 categories would not be included in the report that's given out. So then you basically have 4 categories of funds. You have governmental funds, which is the general fund, the 2 street funds, marina, and funds like that. Then the proprietary funds are the water and sewer, fiduciary retirement, the health piece, and then the agency fund, and last but not least are the component units that are part of the city of Alpena, but they're officially separate. The DDA number 2 and number 5, the Brownfield and Economic Development Corporation are considered component units, so they have their own little category. And last but not least are your 40 pages of footnotes to cover the GASB 1 through 89 of the disclosures that the city is required to put down. And then we have some individual fund statements that are just basically how the front gets put together, that's the detail. So if you turn to page 29, these are the only 2 pages that Straley left and Kraenzlein gives them the whole 200 pages of audit. It's the independent auditor's report. The first paragraph says, what is this? It's the financial statement for the city of Alpena for the year ended June of 18. And it's the management of the city's responsibility to put together these financial statements. And the auditor's responsibilities, we're supposed to audit the financial statements as they're presented to us by the city. So the last sentence on that auditor's responsibility section says, we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our audit opinion. And our opinions as the city of Alpena respective to the financial position and cash flows are in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This is an unmodified opinion. It's the proverbial clean opinion that we get quoted in the media for, that it's as good as you can get. We didn't find any exceptions that take the average reader down the wrong path if they were to get into your financial statements, and we think that the financial statements and the disclosures are materially accurate. So the unmodified opinion is our top opinion that we could give. The statement of net position on page 43 is the citywide statements that I talked about. For those of you my age, it's the balance sheet, but now they call it the statement of net position, and it's the city funds put together with those 4 attributes and that are added. So we've added $29 million worth of fixed assets on the governmental activities there, the capital assets not being depreciated, 3.8 million, 26.5 million in capital assets. Those are on the fund statement. And then we have deferred outflows of resources and deferred inflow of resources in your net pension and OPEB liabilities. And you put those 3 categories together and you come up with a net pension liability of 6.5 million and 4.6 million. That's a little less than Phil quoted earlier because you have deferred outflows related to pension. Basically, the pension plan ends December 31st, so that's the payments that the city have made from January 1st of 18 to June 30th of 18 that aren't included in the actuarial report. So you get credit. It's kind of like a prepayment of your retirement plan, so that lowers the net effect to the city. And then you ended the year with governmental activities, total assets of $38,318,787. The aforementioned deferred outflows of $1,648,873, and you had liabilities of $13,754,000, which ended up net position, which is the bottom line after all the bills are paid and accrued of $24,959,695. So with that, I'd like to talk about the general fund, because that's the largest fund of the city, and that's on page 141 through 145. This is more in line with what the council is used to seeing from the treasurer's office. So the page 141 is the revenues of the city. Basically, you budgeted $10,529,761. It's the second column over there at the bottom row. And then you actually took in $9,863,389. So this was about $666,000 short of the revenues that you expected, but you made up for it by allowing that you had to spend less. So you had less money coming in of about $183,000 less than you did in 17. You take those 2 columns, actual amounts of the June 30th of 18 versus 2017. And the bulk of that was the city received $807,000 worth of federal grants in 17, and you only got $229,000 in 18. So that was the biggest drop in the revenues that the city received in 18. And then page 142 and 143 are all the different departments. We show 4 columns. The original budget that was adopted back in May of 17, and then the final budget that's compared against the actual amounts, and then the 2017 actual. So overall, the city spent a lot less money in 18 than it did in 17 because of the fact that you didn't get that federal money, so you didn't have so many capital projects going on in 18. The federal DG projects were $532,000 less, so that's why on the general government, there's 17 actual expenditures of $758,000 versus 226. So that's the bulk of the difference between 18 and 17. It's just the federal grants and the capital outlay that you spent the money. So the last page, you ended up with the net change in fund balance in the general fund of $232,859, excess expenditures and transfers over revenue, and you ended the year with a fund balance of $2,522,687. So I'm gonna have you turn to page 5051 because all the information is on there. In the general fund, you have $9,863,389 in revenues versus $9,486,069 in expenditures, and transfers out to the other miscellaneous funds of the city is $610 to come up with that $232,000 reduction in your equity that started the year at $2.7 million and ended up at $2,522,687. So this shows how healthy the city of Alpena is. They ended the year with 24.9% of the 18 expenditures and transfers, for about 91 days of operating funds on hand to start the 18-19 year. And the rule of thumb is 15% for fund equity and about 30 days for cash flow. So you've done extremely well, and you have a policy that you want to have between 10 and 20, and the 10 is the minimum that you want on hand, and 20 is the maximum. You had to waive that 20% the last 3 or 4 years because, like I said, it's 24.9%. So the city is in excellent condition. And I don't know, I guess I'm rambling here a little bit, but I want to congratulate Anna and Leland from the city that this was their first CAFR without a net, that Julie and Karen didn't retire till January, so she had those people to look back on. And I want to recognize from our firm, Chelsea Meter, that was responsible in our office for putting CAFR together. And those 3 ladies, were flying without a net, and I think they did a super job.
Thank you,
I
Mark.
give them some kudos. To quote, paraphrase JFK, that the torch has been passed to new generation. So Karen and I and Julie are fading off into the sunset. The new ladies are going to take over. So with that, are there any questions? I'm dealing with trying to put a 200-page report together in 3 minutes of explanation. I know you might have some questions, but just, I don't know. If you have some questions, tell Hannah or just call me directly and we can go through details. But overall, like I said, the city's in super financial condition. 24.9% for a city this size is pretty good.
I have 2 comments to let you know. You mentioned the OPEB that we actually kind of went backwards a little. We have set a policy internally to increase the percent that we put employee wages, and that includes all wages, even those who are not going to get any kind of retiree health. I think this year it's 6%.
6%.
And we're looking at 7 or 8 next year, and to continue to probably try to move towards the goal of hitting 10%. That will push that percent funded. I think overall we're actually in good shape because I think it takes about $130,000 to $40,000 a year to pay for the premiums. So if we're putting in 6, 7, and that's growing, it's going to be in excess of that by a fair amount. And that will allow us to grow the balance sheet. The other is, sometimes that's looked at as, you have all this liability, but it's basically only going to happen if suddenly everybody retired at once, and it's simply not going to happen. That's going to be spread out over many years. And so the main ones who will, you know, that do have it, either some of us in admin, and a few in clerical and DPW, it's mainly in public safety, but that's capped for newer employees. So as the older ones do retire, eventually fall out of the system, we'll be in even better shape. So I think we're going in the right direction there. The other is, even though we ended up with a deficit, which we certainly don't like to have, and I think it was 232, almost 233,000. If we took out what we had to spend across the river, which came out of fund balance, that was what, 265, 270, somewhere in that range for that. We actually did well. We probably were on the positive side, but we knew that was gonna have to come out of fund balance. There was no insurance coverage, and it had to be fixed. So I think overall, all the department heads, Anna and her team, they did a really good job of controlling costs, and other than something that, over which we had really no control.
Yeah, since this might be my last meeting, I want to take the media guys that you did not have a deficit. You spent equity from a previous year, that you expended more than you took in, but you had $2.7 million of equity going forward. So you don't run into trouble until that 2.7 million, and now it's 2.5 million is gone, and then you have a deficit. So, and then when, like Greg said, when you started out that health insurance plan, it was basically a pay-as-you-go, and now you're allowing for it a little more, that you have $1,118,000 set aside, so you're about, just a little bit shy of 20% funded. And then everybody else is in the same boat, that all the municipal units that we do didn't allow for their health insurance like they did the retirement. So they were pretty much pay as you go. And that liability is just there at net, but it's when the last person gets paid out of the retirement and health insurance is when the liability will be paid, and hopefully that'll be 20-some years from now, so.
They can turn off the light and shut the door.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Phil and Mark. You always present very well, and we appreciate it. And thank you for the clarification on the deficit. We sometimes use that term
Yeah, deficit is
inappropriately, I
if the
guess.
fund equity is red,
So,
it's not, you're just using equity that you built up over the years, and eventually that happens because you just don't want to keep building up that equity, that you have to put it to use.
Sure. Well, thank you again. I don't know if anybody's got any questions. And thank you,
Like I
Chelsea.
said, if you've got any individual questions, you can call our office.
Sure.
I know I went through here rambling fast and furious.
Very good.
It's a 200-page report.
Yeah.
Everything you'd ever want to know about the city of Alpena is in this report, even the visioning statement.
It is.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again.
Receive and file.
Yes, please.
I move we receive and file.
Nielsen? Yes. Noah?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And unfinished business, we have new business, gravel aggregate renewal recommendation. Rich?
Excuse me. On December 17th, the city received the attached request from Specification Stone Products to renew the gravel aggregate contract for 2019. This contract contains language which allows for the renewal of the contract for up to one additional one-year period, provided both parties can agree on any pricing adjustments. Mark Larson of Specification Stone Products has requested an increase to unit prices as outlined in the bid tabulation comparison to previous years. And there is an increase. Basically what we're seeing under the construction aspect of it, we saw these increases in the spring. We saw our aggregate prices increase back at that point in time. He was under contract, through the end of the year. So now it's kind of a catch-up on those price increases. The other thing, you know, we have purchasing aggregate, and then we have purchasing aggregate delivered. We use the delivered aggregate very rarely. Most of the time, our trucks will pick up either aggregate out of our yard or a stockpile, or else we'll go right to their yard and pick up a load and take it out to the job site. What we did is we set that up as just in case if we needed to have several gravel trains delivered to a particular site if we were re-graveling the parking lot at Bayview or Starlight Beach, as an example, or Michigan Park. Those, you know, there we may want to have some gravel trains delivered because it's more efficient. Typically, we pick it up and deliver it ourselves. It's my recommendation to city engineer to renew the gravel aggregate contract to specification stone products for the as-bid unit prices. Purchases will be made as needed or stockpiled or placed into stores until the item is used and then billed to the appropriate department.
The only question I've got with the increase of, you know, some of those prices are going from 9.5% up to 12%. Is there anything that either Greg or Bill can answer? Is there automatic rebids when we see a big increase like that, or anything on these contract extensions that we're not aware of? It's the first time I've seen one that's gone up that much.
Yeah, I don't think there's a specific council policy on that. You know, when it was bid out, obviously, the original contract provided that there could be one additional one-year term, provided the parties agreed on the numbers, so. But there's none that I can think of off the top of my head that reflects
Yeah, no
a
percentage.
certain percentage automatically requires rebid.
For us, we
Nothing
don't,
in Council Policy Statement 18 that addresses that. It just basically says if the renewal prices are deemed reasonable.
and that's the thing that Rich or whatever department it is, they look at it, yeah, it's a big increase, but based upon what has happened, they were reasonable, and the fact that they actually were beginning to change and rather drastically last spring, so we had a considerable period of time where they had to, in essence, eat the cost, because they were under contract. But, yeah, I assume this will go out to bid next year then.
Yes. And we, you know, it's, you know, I can't sit right here and tell you the exact number, but, you know, if we spent $20,000 total for aggregates throughout the year, that would be a high number.
Yeah, and just for council awareness too, just looking nationally, depending on the aggregate, it's 4 to 12% on average. So from what I've seen, this seems like it falls right within, you know, the numbers I've seen here too, so. So I move we approve the gravel aggregate specification, or we approve gravel aggregate with specifications.
Nowak?
Yes.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
And Nielsen?
Yes. Oh, did I answer for you? I'm so sorry.
Motion carried.
It's only in percent.
All right, that's our agenda.
I move we adjourn to closed session to discuss water and sewer litigation.
I'm glad I didn't say that.
Walagora?
Aye.
Hess?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
And Nowak?
Yes.
Motion carried.